Hello, everyone. In our mission, I'm very thankful that God has given us His precious hour because of COVID-19. Whenever I come to our chapel, it's all empty. There's no one around. Although it's a big place where we can gather thousands of people, but we can only find empty seats. But at least in front of me, there are many screens, and on the screens, I can see people's face. But from long ago, God let us do IYF, and we preached online since many years ago. But because of COVID-19, during last year, although it was difficult, but because of online, I think we were able to have the opportunity to preach the gospel to more people than ever. Although we have many thoughts in us, but we were able to take off this thought, and when our heart goes toward the orientation that Jesus wants to take us through, and if our heart flows with Jesus one another, then our life will be really happy with Him. Read 2 Kings chapter 4. Read 2 Kings chapter 4 from verse 1 through 7. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? Then she said, Thine handmaid hath not anything in the house save a pot of oil. Then he said, Go borrow thee vessels abroad, and all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. When thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour out into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her 2 sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more, and the oil stayed. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go sell the oil, and pay thy debt, and leave thou and thy children of the rest. Everyone, I'm really thankful before God because I never imagined that I would become a pastor. When my mother passed away, my elder sister, she took care of us as a mother. Pastor Oh Young-do in England and Pastor Oh Young-shin in Germany, and Elder Oh Young-jin was in charge of the broadcast here in Good News Gangnam Church. These three sons. My elder sister, she had only 3 sons, and their name is Young-do, Young-shin, Young-jin. And it's been many years since she passed away. And my brother-in-law, Pastor Oh Chang-myung, after she passed away, he left 3 sons behind him. But I'm very thankful before God because the first son became missionary in England. He became the president of a Christian fellowship in England. And second son, whose name is Oh Young-shin, is doing his ministry in England, in Germany, in Frankfurt. And the third and last born, Oh Young-jin, he's serving as an elder. He's the tallest out of 3, and he's the tallest, and he's serving in Gangnam Church as an elder, and also in charge of the broadcast. I asked him, why don't you join missionary school and become, pastor later? He said, it's okay. I can just do the work for the broadcast. He says, until now, he's doing this work for the broadcast, and I'm really thankful before God. When my brother-in-law passed away, when my elder sister passed away, I wondered how would I be able to raise these 3 sons. But God raised them so well, and they are doing this work of God. I'm so thankful before God. Pastor Oh Young-shin is in Germany, Frankfurt now.
생각을 하면
But when he
생각할수록
thinks, the more I think about him,
진짜 말을 안 들어요.
he doesn't listen to me at all.
미국 LA에서
When I was in LA, in United States, he worked as a co-pastor there
LA 교회.
in LA
그분은
church.
밤에 도둑이 있어요.
Once, three thieves they came into the house.
뭐 권총 가지고 있기 때문에 웬만한
Usually, thieves they carry guns, so you have to avoid them. But he pursued them.
100m 이상 따라가서 잡아가지고
He kind of ran 100 meters
얼마나 때렸는지
behind them, and he caught one and bit him so bad that he became so badly bitten up. And the thief who got caught and was bitten up by Pastor Oyoung-shin sued him.
변호사비 주지 마라. 그놈.
And I told the mission not to support him any lawyer fee.
근데 그때
That he has to face the situation. He has to face the consequences.
하와이로 쫓겨갔는데
And from LA, he was now kicked out, and he was sent to Hawaii.
이제 뭐 했냐면은
And in Hawaii, what they did was,
LA UCLA에서 캠프를 할
in UCLA, we had a camp, and I had gathered all the pastors then,
했는데
and I told them that I have invented a new program. So if there's anyone who want to join, who want to participate, I would maybe 10. I will need 10 volunteers. I said. Then that's when Pastor Oyoung-shin and Oyoung-shin and Oyoung-do brothers they joined the program.
우리가
They volunteered for the program.
경험을
Actually,
해보지 아니하면
in your thought, it may be so obvious, but unless you experience it, believing in God and taking a step forward, relying on Him, it's not an easy thing.
전도자들 가운데
That's why among the pastors, by the grace of God,
그런 일을 많이 경험했어요.
I was able to face all those problems and all those things. And when I was in Apgokdong, and also when I was in Changpali, when I was in the army too.
김천이 있을 때
And after discharge from the military, when I went to Kimcheon, I went through many difficulties.
그래서 제가 10명을 가지고
So with 10 people, I told them, I'm not forcing you. If you want it, you can do it. If you don't, you don't have to. So you are gonna buy a one-way ticket of a Greyhound bus,
다른 한 번도 안 가본 도시
and you will now go to a city where you have never been. But you are gonna go there with your wife, and you're gonna stay there for a month.
잠자도 조금
You can either sleep there or play around. You can do whatever you want there. And I came back to Korea after telling them that.
그냥 미국 집회에서 갔는데
And I went there again next time for the conference in US. Those 10 missionaries who went to other cities for a month without any money, they just bought one-way ticket of their Greyhound bus, and as they stayed there for a month,
하나님이 너무 이분들을 축복해 주셔.
God blessed them so much.
저는 그 다음 미국 집회 가가지고
And when I went there next time
근데 10명이 뭐 간증이 얼마나
for the conference, those 10 people who had gone for the program, they would keep coming to me and tell me and share all these testimonies with me, and I was very grateful. And Pastor Oyoung-shin, he gave his testimony he said that he was in Hawaii then.
하와이는 이제 뭐 그레이하운드가 없잖아.
In Hawaii, there is no Greyhound bus because it's an island. It's an island.
다른 섬에 갔대.
So he went to other city taking a flight.
근데 이제 문제는 내외만 가야 하는데
But it is only the couple who have to go there. But he has three daughters.
지금 늘 그래요 보면.
But I don't know. That's how it is all the time. My sister had 3 sons, and now Pastor Oyoung-shin, he had 3 daughters.
이 딸세 7살.
So these 3 kids, they were 7 years old. One was 7 years old. The second one, 7 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old. They were about that old back then.
근데 LA에 교회가 이제 조그만 교회인데
Now the church in LA,
하와이에
the church in Hawaii was a very small church,
아이를
but
한 달 동안
there was no one who could took care of these 3 daughters for a month, so they had to travel along with them.
첫날 이제 가서 일단 이제 그 도시에 가가지고 잠잘 때가 이제 걱정이 되는 거예요.
When I first went there, I was a little worried about where we could sleep. There was a big mall.
아울렛 하려고 하는 조그마한 집이 하나 있는데 비어 있더라고요.
There was this building where they're going to use as an outlet, and it was empty there. So I said maybe we shouldn't. Maybe he thought maybe I could sleep there. He thought, and he left his bag there in secret. And around in the evening, he went in there, wanting to sleep there and pass the night. But the security was watching them from far, and he knew that they were going to sleep there and spend the night there. So he came near them and said, why did you come in here? And he said, we're going to pass the night here. He said, no, you can't.
미국에는 법이 좀 달라가지고
In the United States, the law is kind of different.
그 사람이 자도 거기 사고가 일어나면
So even if they sleep there, even if they sleep there illegally, without the lawyer of that, without the owner of the house recognizing it, if they sleep and has an accident, is the responsibility of the owner of the house. And they said, "Oh, please let us sleep here. We have our kids here with us."
그 이제 백화점 그 쇼핑몰에 간부들 지나가다가
And some of the board member of the mall was just walking by and saw this, and he talked to the security. What are you doing here? And he said, "Why do you want to sleep here?" He said, "Oh, we came here on mission journey, and while my house is in other island, we have nowhere to sleep. That's why we wanted to sleep here." So you need a room? He asked. Yes, we need a room. I have many rooms in my house. I can give you 2 rooms. You can just come to my house if it's okay with you. Thank you. And they came. So they went there with 3 kids, but those 3 kids,
못난 아버지를 믿고 있지만은
they were trusting their father.
그 동네 아이들은 놀고 뭐 이하고 놀다 야 가자 하면 예.
So, they had nowhere to sleep, but they would not worry about it, but they would just sleep.
아이들 뒤에 따라오고 단 엄마가 캐리 가방 끌고 또 오리 새끼 5마리 가면서 막 그러. 애들이 뭐
And
너무 좋아하는 그
the kids were so happy, and they were carrying their bags with them.
또 이제 지나가다 씨발 손을 들어 뭐 차가
And as they're walking, when they raised up their hand, the cars would stop, and they were surprised because they didn't needed a car, but they would just hitchhike like that, and the kids were so happy as they were traveling together with their parents. One day, the father thought about it.
저 아이들은 못
These kids, they are relying on me who am so weak, but they feel so comfortable and relaxed. But me, I'm relying on God, but still I feel so unstable and uneasy. Why? What is the difference? So when he came up with this thought,
자기의 전능한 하나님이
although
준비 안 했을까 봐.
he could discover his heart that he was afraid that God may have not prepared this place for him to sleep and pass the night. Oh, this is the kind of person I am.
그한 달 동안에
So during this period of 1 month,
잠을 재워 주시고 음식을 주시고 그 하나님 너무 놀란 거예요.
he was so thankful because God helped him and gave him place to sleep. So we may know the Bible by theory,
경험해 보지 아니하면
but if we don't experience the Bible ourselves,
되고 못 하는데
we may hesitate.
처음에 제가 압곡동 갔을 때 장팔리
When I went to Apgokdong and Changpalli,
군대 갔을 때
when I went to the army,
군에 제대하고 김천 있을 때
when I went to Kimcheon after getting discharged from the army, when I lived in Daegu,
굉장히 어려웠어요.
it was very difficult.
이때는 막 아주 어려울 때는
Then because it was so hard,
교회 성도들에게 이런 이야기 한마디 하면 도와줄 건데
I thought if I tell the church members that it's this difficult, maybe they're going to help me. So I was tempted sometime like that.
한 번도
But I never told them what I needed, not even a penny. I wouldn't ask for money to help.
어려움은 많이 겪었지.
Although I had to go through many difficulties because of that, but I could see how God was helping me.
영어도 그때 좀 서툰데
And although he wasn't that good in English, but because in the mission, they sent Pastor Young-Shin-Oh
독일을 써야
in Frankfurt, because in Germany, Frankfurt, they have to speak German, but he didn't speak German then. So it was not even easy. It was harder.
이제 지난번에 하와이 가서 경험을 했으니까
So because he experienced that in Hawaii,
거기서 이제 뭘 했냐면은
so what he did there was
7층짜리 빌딩이 있어요.
there was this building of seven stories,
숨겨 쓰기 좋은 거예요.
and it was so good for us to use.
그걸 살라고 대들었어요.
He wanted to buy that in Frankfurt.
근데 독일은 은행에 융자를 받으면
But in
이자가
Germany, if you
그러니까 이제
the interest of the loan
70%
is usually 60%, 70% a year. But in Korea, it's only 30 about it's only around 30%. So it's like half of the interest of Germany.
진짜 놀라운 게
But what is amazing is as they
저가 친척 하나가 독일에 왔다가
one day
1억을 하나님께 드린 거예요.
one of the
형제한테 헌금을 했지만
brothers and sisters gave offering to the church, but it was not sufficient.
이자가 싸다.
But because the
몇몇
interest was cheaper in Korea,
몇억이 도와줬는데
we supported the church in Germany,
갔다가 나중에 보면 우리가
and
흑객하고
we were paying the interest for them. But later, because we thought it's better to pay for them, so we paid a loan for them, and they got this beautiful building.
배교한 장로님은
Especially our elder, Baekhyun, he's good at indoor interior.
빌딩이나 실내 인테리어 너무
And even in Daegu, we built big building, and the interior is so good.
캠프를 독일에서 하게 됐는데 프랑크푸르트
As we did the World Camp in Frankfurt,
준비하는 팀들이
the team which prepared it, there were
이분들이 지금
25 members went there to prepare.
월드 캠프 날짜가
Until now, the date of the World Camp, they had about 40 days left. But what Pastor Oh Young-shin thought about was,
하는 회원들 25명을 데리고
but taking the 25 members of the group who were going there to prepare, they went to Manila's mission journey to downtown of the city of the Frankfurt.
40일 동안
So in the big city for about 40 days, 25 people.
근데 이야기를 들어보면
So when they asked them what had happened,
어떻게든 그 간증이
their testimony is so amazing when we see the way how God helped them.
25명이 잠잠
So when we went there first time, the 25 people they had to sleep there, but as they're witnessing, they met this priest, and they showed him a place where he could spend the night. And as they slept together, and they would give them the meal, and these priests, they were, to them these Asians were so strange because they were walking around in Frankfurt penniless without any money. So it really amazed them.
먹고 교회에서 사고 그러면
So as they stayed 1 week there in the church,
원신 목사가 하는 말이 일주일 됐어 미안해서 못
Pastor was so sorry. Pastor Oh Young-shin was sorry because they couldn't stay any longer in the place, and they came out from the house and they wanted to go elsewhere. And they would witness all day long, and in the evening they would go elsewhere.
사실 너무 싫어 배가 너무 고픈데
And the one brother, he was so hungry one day, so he went into one bakery,
돈을 계산해
and he wanted to buy a bread, and he counted his money, and the money that he had was a little short,
이 사람이
so he couldn't buy a bread. So he said to the owner of the bakery that, oh, actually, we are on Penniless Mission Journey,
내가 오늘 하루 종일
and all day long I starved, so I'm so hungry.
빵이
But
하는데
I'm trying to buy bread, but my money is a little short, so can you give me a little discount so that I could buy this?
그 직원들이 뭐라 하냐면
Then the workers there said, no, we can't do that. They should do that.
하는 규정이
So in our
절대로
company, we have regulations.
깎아주지
We cannot give you any reduction.
내가 당신
That's regulations of our bakery. Actually, I can help you,
회사의 사장을 속이고
but I can't deceive the owner of the bakery and just do it as I want, because he was so hungry, he just waited there. Oh, you can just help me this time, because I'm so hungry. You can just help me a little bit. No, I can't.
그럼 당신이 좀 돈 좀 내고 좀 주면 안 되겠나?
So can't you just pay the little bit for us?
내가 돈을 깎아주는 일반인데
So
규정을 어기고
so I can break the regulations of our, bakery and just pay you like that. Germans, they're very strict in that.
참 내가 고픈데
I'm so hungry. Can't you help me, please?
내가 너 규정만 없으면 내가 뭐 하겠는데
Without any regulations, how could I have helped you?
이 사람이 하는 말이
So what happened there was,
그럼 내가 조건 안 걸게 내 말 들어줄래?
if are you going to help me then if I just tell you this?
10분만
I said yes. Could you just wait here for 30 minutes and I can help you? Oh, are you serious? Yeah, I can help. I can stay. I can wait. I'm gonna give you for free, so just wait here for 30 minutes.
돈안 깎아서 30분을 공짜로
You are not giving me any reduction, but why are you gonna give me like for free in 30 minutes? Because in 30 minutes we will have to close.
우리 회사는
In our company,
하루 팔고 남는 것
we don't sell what is left today tomorrow.
빵은 괜찮은 빵인데
No, the bread is good, but I can give you all once we close.
정말이가
Oh, are you serious?
정말이다
Yeah, I'm serious.
전화를 해가지고 형제하며 다 불렀어요
Yeah, he called all the members of the church.
그분이 이야기를 듣더니
And when you heard that,
다 줄게 다 가져와
I'm gonna give it all to you, so you can come. You can come here every day, every evening. Once this hour is over, we're gonna abandon this. So, and it's really,
먹어 줘라
it's annoying to us. You can take it and eat.
이 사람들이
So these people,
하신 하나님이
Almighty God,
일하는 걸 경험하라
they saw how God was working.
여러분이 이제
Everyone.
읽고 하나님 역사를 이론 줄 알아요
You may know the work of God by theory,
그걸 경험해 보지 못하면
but if you don't come to realize it,
되느냐면
you know what happens?
불안하고 초조해요
You may feel, you may feel unstable.
경험해 보면
But if you experience it once or twice,
하나님이 우리 속에 역사한 역사가
the work that God does in us will be so amazing.
그래가지고 이제 25명이 무전 전도 여행을 시작해가지고
25 people, they started this penniless mission journey, and they went on the penniless mission journey for 40 days. And when they finished, it was like 40 people.
40명, 15명
So they started 25, but later they became 40 people. So 15 people came more.
너무 신기한 거.
So it was so amazing.
그건 뭐 해마다 그렇게 해요.
So that's how they did every year.
우리가 만난 하나님을
God that we met,
처음에는 이제 경험해보지 않은 사람 막
those who have not experienced Him before, maybe may feel unstable. But if you meet them at least once, and you see you will see the difference. When I was in Kimcheon,
아무도 돕는 사람이 없는데
there was no one helping us,
한 기적적으로 집을 얻어서 우리 김제 복음을
and we found this house in Kimcheon, and
날
it was a miracle to us. And
투명인물이 와서 나가지
in our office, there was two ladies standing, and they're hesitating.
그런데 문을 열고 보니까
And I opened the door, and one lady was kind of avoiding me. So I closed the door and I came back in. But they were standing there like for an hour. So I opened the door and I went out and I asked them, what brought you here?
아가씨가 날 보고
Then the lady said, "Oh, Pastor,
말씀을 듣고 싶어서
I came here because I wanted to hear the word of God."
들어오라고.
And I said, "Okay, come in."
이 아가씨들이 선산에서 하나
These ladies,
나이가
one of them was 17, the other one was 18 years old.
선산에서
They were from Sunsan, and they received salvation in Sunsan, but they missed the word so much that they came here. They came there to hear the word of God. So all afternoon long, I preached the word for them, and two of them was so happy
이제
when they heard the word, and they
안 가겠다는 거예요.
they wanted to go back, but
전 살고 싶다는 거예요.
and they wanted to leave. They said I told them to go back, but they didn't want. They said they don't want to go back. They wanted to stay. I told them, you should go back. Otherwise, your parents will be worried. And she said, we told our parents that we're gonna stay here. And she said that she's gonna find a room in Kimcheon and stay there. She said she was gonna give me the money that I should find a room for them. She said. So I found a room for them, but then, you know, back then in Japan, when you make kimono, they have to dye, but they used this thing. There's a technique of tying it in a way so that they would dye it in a very beautiful way. So because in Korea, the man labor was very cheap, was very cheap. So these ladies, they were good at doing that thing, dyeing the silk with that technique. They were good at it. And those two ladies, they used their techniques to dye the silk. Every day they were eating. They were eating.
우리 성도한들 여기 보태고 막 그렇게 일을 몇 년 동안
And they worked there for a while.
지금 얼마 전에 만나보니 할머니가 손자
And they became like old lady now when I met them a little while ago.
저들이 지난 과거를 보면은
When I see our past,
참한 일을 많이 겪.
although we went through many difficulties,
하나님 믿는 믿음이 없어 막 불안하고 초조하고 그런
but when we have no hope in God, we would be so unstable and so difficult.
우리 속에 역사하는 거.
But I saw how God was working in our hearts.
어제 저희 우리 11개 7장 이야기를
Yesterday we talked about Second King chapter 7. You know what did Elisha said?
나의 말을 들을
Hear ye the word of the Lord.
사마리아에서
Tomorrow about this time,
고운 가루 한 사에 한 세겔하고
tomorrow at this time, a measure of fine flour will be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley will be for a shekel in the gate of Samaria.
포위를 해가지고
So they were in the gate of Samaria,
때문에
and they were surrounded by the Assyrian army. So they couldn't even, work in their farm. So they're eating their own children. That's what was going on there.
그런데 내일 이맘때 사마리아에서 고운 가루
But tomorrow about this time, a measure of fine flour were to be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley were sold for a shekel. They said will be sold for a shekel. Then the Lord, on whose hand the Lord leaned, said to the man, even if the Lord would make windows in heaven, would this thing be? He said.
엘리사가 그 이야기를 했더니 막 백성들이
When Elisha said that, people they were so happy. Oh, now God is thinking about us. Oh, He will give us a lot of food. But then the Lord of the king said, well, no, that's impossible. That's impossible, he said.
그러니까 이 사람들이
So these people,
믿음을 다 무너뜨리는 왕의 장관이
so they were so afraid.
자 이제 여러분들 가운데
And now among you,
사도행전 13장 22절에 보면은
if you see 1 King chapter 13 verse 22, first Acts chapter 13 verse 22, it says, "When I see son of Jesse, David, he's a man after mine own heart.
내 마음에 합한 사람이라 내 뜻을 다 이루게 하리라."
I'll let him fulfill my will," he said.
자 여러분 우리는
Everyone,
말씀을 읽고 들어도
even if we hear the word of God and read it,
그대로 믿는 내
we don't believe it as it is, but we still have our thoughts, and we think, oh, this is going to be possible, this is going to be impossible. So many times we decide things according to our thoughts.
아들 다윗은
But son of Jesse, David, God says he's a man after mine own heart. So he says that they were of one heart and they were having one heart. He said.
여러분들이 신앙을 배우면
So when you learn spiritual life, and when you keep your Bible open, and if you discover the heart of God,
을 가지면
and if you come to have one heart with God,
너무 신기한
and it will be so amazing.
하나님이 정말 놀라운 일들을
And God does a lot of amazing works in our lives.
저는 지금까지
Until now,
살면서
as I live in the gospel,
인간적인 면허 불가능한 일을 하나님 이루는 것을 수없이
I saw how God was accomplishing things that seems impossible in human eyes.
하나님이 우리를 지키시고 우리를 도우시고 우리 앞에 복음의 문을
God was helping me and protecting me. He opened the gate of the gospel in front of us.
아무것도 아닌 사람인데
Although I'm nothing,
하나님이 일하니 너무
But when I saw how God was helping me, it was so amazing.
처음에는 막 불안 이게 안 되면 저 초조한 마음도 그랬는데
So in the beginning, when things doesn't work out the way I want, we were a little afraid. But as we experienced it once or twice,
하나님은 여러분 모두가
God,
여러분 생각에는
in your thought,
이건 될 것 같다.
you may think, oh, this is going to work, or you may think this is not going to work.
여러분 진짜 하나님을 여러분 판단 말고 이 성경을 그대로 믿음.
But not your judgment, but if you believe the word of God as it is.
지금 어제 저녁에 이야기를 했습니다만은
I said it yesterday, but in the beginning was the word,
그 말씀은
and the word was with God.
마음에 받아들여 믿으면
And if you accept it in your heart,
하나님하고 나하고 같은 사람.
and you'll be the same, you'll be the one you'll be the one having one hearted with God.
열매는 과목을 내라.
Let the earth bring forth the seed yielding fruit and fruit trees yielding fruit.
하나님 말씀대로 다.
So everything was being done according to the word of God.
그럼 우리 성경 말씀 그대로 되는데
So things will come to pass according to the word of God.
하나님이 사마리아에 있는 모든 사람들 기근으로 주와 여자 자기 아기를 삶아 먹고 하는 참
And people in Samaria was going through a very miserable situation where they were eating their own children.
하나님의 종 엘리사를 통해서 그
But man of God Elisha,
믿음을 주고
through Elisha, God gave them hope and faith.
내리만 떼서
From about this time, a measure of fine flour will be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley will be sold for a shekel.
나는 그걸 안 믿으니까
But the Lord of the king did not believe this. He would say, "No, that makes no sense. How can that be? Even if God makes windows in heaven."
왕의 장관 마을
In the heart of the Lord, in the heart of the king, in the heart of the Lord,
엘리사의 말을 그 믿음이 팍 솟아.
you would have faith. But when you hear the word of the
오늘 열왕기하 4장에 나오는
word of the Lord, you will lose your faith. But if you see the wife of the son of the prophet,
믿음을 갖고
how could this woman have come to have faith? It explains precisely how she came to have faith.
이 여자는
This woman,
하나님을 안 믿었는데
she did not believe in God,
결혼해가 두 아들을 낳았는데
and she gave birth to a child. She gave birth to 2 sons. But her husband was so sincere in believing in God,
남편을 진짜
and he was so sincere in his faith.
근데 저희들 선교회도
So in our mission too,
이제 그 남편은 막 믿음 배우려고 하고 하는데
and the husband was trying to learn the faith, but most of the times the wives,
많이 좋으시오. 당신이
they just push their husbands, because if the husbands have faith, it will be good for their wives. So the wives, they usually just push their husbands, and that's how they fight many times.
진짜 하나님을 사랑.
But in this house, the husband really loved God and wanted to serve God,
하나님 미치는
but the wife had no faith in God.
그래서 하나님은 이 아내 마음에서
So in the heart of the woman, God wanted to give them faith.
하는데
God wanted them to also go to heaven having faith in God.
같이 선교학교 와 있으면 아 남편은 진심으로 복음을 위해서 애쓰고
When they come to mission school, the husband had faith in God and was trusting God, but the wife was so fleshly.
인간적인 것만 보지 인간
She was seeing on the humanistic things and having no faith in God.
하나님이 그 아내에게 구원의 은총을 베풀고
So God wanted to give him faith and let him have faith in God.
이름 가지
But having Jesus just wanted to push the husband, but didn't want to have learned faith. And one day the husband died without any reason.
남편 따라서 믿음을 가지
Before his death, if she had learned the faith of her husband, how nice that would have been. But to this woman,
치기 위하여
in order to teach her the faith, until now she had good situation, but this situation did not let her have faith in God. So God took away the situation away from her, so that God pushed him to a situation where he could only believe in God.
그래 이거 선교 학교에 있다가 남편이 딱 죽어버리니까
but as her husband died,
아내가 이야기해요. 주위 사람
and one day she would say to her
믿음이 없고요.
to people who are around her that, oh, I'm sorry, but I have no faith, and because I have no faith, my presence will bother you and other people too. So I think it's better for me to leave here, and I will just leave for my kids,
저는 뭐 앞에 돈을 벌어가지고
and I'll just try to make money so that I would be able to raise my children, and I'll let them just get married someday. That's all my wish.
아줌마도 믿음 가지면 참 좋은데
Grandma, if you could have, ma'am, if you could learn faith, that would be good. But can't you learn faith just like your husband? I'm sorry for I'm thankful for what you have just told me, but I can't have that kind of faith.
이 아내는 자기가 돈 벌어가 열심히 일하면
But this lady, she thought that if she makes money and try hard, she thought she would be able to raise her children well.
마음을 가지고
So she just thought that things will work out well. So just wanting to make money,
어려울 것 같아요.
she thought that if I stay here, I wouldn't be able to make money. So she went out of the place, and she took her two children with her, and she went out.
나가서 이제 돈을 벌려고 할 돈이 잘
When she went out, if things work out well as she wished, and if she can make money, that's good. But things did not work out the way she wanted.
사업을 한다고 장사한다 돈을 빌려 가지고 했는데
She borrowed money from other people,
돈도 못 갚고 이자도 못 갚고 막 어려워.
but she couldn't pay the money back. She couldn't pay the interest either, and things went really bad.
쟁이가 찾아와요.
The creditors would come. Ma'am, we're also going through difficulties. You have to pay us back. Oh, we're sorry. I'll pay you back. Just hold on for a month. So tell us, how are you going to pay us back in a month? And no matter what I do, I'll pay you back. No matter what I have to do, I'll pay you back in a month.
그래 하루 미뤘는데
That's how they pushed. That's how they postponed the due date, but she wasn't able to pay them back. But she said again, oh, this time again, I'll make sure to pay you back in a month. And they said, oh, I'll wait for a month then.
이번에는 그냥
But this time, I'm not just going to wait, but I'm going to wait for you for a month. But that's how you deceived me all the time.
한달 기다 만일 한달 째 돈을 못 갚고
After a month, if you don't pay me back again, what am I going to do then? What are we going to do then? Oh, no, don't worry about it. I'll pay you back no matter what. We understand. If I don't pay you back in a month, if you pay me back, it's okay. But if you don't,
돈 받을 방법이 없어.
then I have no way of getting money.
아줌마 두 아들
So then you will have to sell your two children to pay me back, okay?
그 이제 빚쟁이가 갔어요.
And then the creditor went away.
그래 이제 이 아줌마가 자매가
So this lady, she had no faith.
한 달 동안에 빚을 못 갚으면 자기 두 아들
If she doesn't pay the debt in a month, then she were to lose her two children. She was in such deep despair.
하나님은 이 부인에게
So to this lady,
믿음을 가르치시기를 원했어요.
God wanted to teach him
믿음을
faith.
배우면 얼마나 좋고 의지하고 밝고 복된데.
If rely on God, that would be such a blessing for them.
그래 제 삶은 간신히 받았는데.
But people, they receive salvation,
하나님 믿는 믿음이 없는
but in their life, believing in God, there are many people who have no faith in God. God wants to teach us that faith.
저도 여러분 저도 믿음 부족한 사람입니다만.
Sometimes myself too, I lack in faith too. But living in faith and living with humanistic method, that's like the difference between heaven and the earth.
크고 작은 많은 일들은 우리 인간으로 하는 게 아니에요.
Things that are done, they are not done by our own
힘으로 말미암아
will, but things are done by the will of God.
눈에 보이지 않는 그 하나님하고
God, who is not visible in our eyes,
그 마음이
if you put your heart together with Him,
여러분 삶이 얼마나 행복이다 하는
how happy you would be.
뭔지를 몰라요.
that's so nice.
그래 이 부인이
But this lady, she spent every month, but the due date was closed. The deadline due date was closed. But now, in a couple of days' time,
사람들이 와서 자기 두 아들을 잡아가지고
these creditors were gonna come and take her two sons as bondmen, and she had no other way.
지금까지는 하나님 믿는 믿음
Until now,
하나님 진짜 뭐 돈을 던져 주시나?
she had no faith in God. Oh, is God gonna, is He going to throw me money or something? I don't trust Him. That's the kind of heart that he had. But in the heart of this lady, God wanted to teach him faith.
언제까지 너 인간 방법으로 살래?
So until when are you gonna live by humanistic method? You should learn faith.
방법의 한계에 도달해서
So
믿음으로만 갈 수 있는 길을 가르치고 있어.
God was trying to teach him how one can live only by faith, only having faith in God.
자들도 그래요.
That's how it is with the members of
하면 좋은
members of our church. They know that it's good if you can do it by faith.
없는 사람들은
But those who have no faith in God,
하나님 내게 기도 응답 안 해줄 것 같고 안 도와줄 것 같고 막 그런 마음이 들어서
because they feel like God is not going to help you.
방법을 아직 믿는 믿음을 못 내서요. 그래서
So as they hold on to their humanistic method, many pastors, although it's difficult,
어려움도 당해보고 고난 당해보고 그러면서 딱 부딪히고
as they go through difficulties and as they go through difficulties, they're gonna discover how God helps them. When I went to the army, the difficulty that I went through, it was one winter and I lost my glove.
그 당시는 구타가 너무 심해가지고
Because back then, there was so much beating in the military. So the chief of my room, he would beat people up in the room if they lose something.
다 팔아먹어서 그
He would be like, "Where did you sell those gloves?" That's how he would say. So I was afraid that he may beat me up again because I lost my gloves, and all of us we were going through training, and we were 200 in number, and 199 people was, their their blue hands were being raised up because they wore gloves, but only me, I was raising red hands because I didn't wear gloves. And I thought to myself, we are in the military. I have no other choice. I should probably steal it. And in the army, maybe in the night, maybe I should switch the gloves from others.
근데 그때 내 마음에 어떤 마음이 드냐면
And that's when I thought,
네가 장가 부르치다가
hey, if you steal, you may not get caught as you wish. But in case you get caught, if you get caught,
네가 예수 믿는 사람들 전도하는데
you as you believe in Jesus, we are going to witness, right? But would you be able to do the witnessing if you steal?
딴 사람 도시에 잡힌 장난이고 예수
And for other people, if they steal, they think it's it's joke. But for other people, when Christian joke still, they will say they are joking. When Christian still, they will be like they are a thief, but they would they would steal themselves.
저희 상관님들 만나가 복음 전하고 저희 뭐 동기들 또
So I preached the gospel to the people who had higher rank than me.
전도 못 한다면
But if I'm unable to witness the gospel in the army, in the military, I may not get caught. But in case I get caught, what am I going to do?
도둑질을 못 하겠다.
So I couldn't dare steal. God, I need a pair of gloves. God, please give me a pair of gloves.
간절하게 기도.
I pray to God sincerely.
전도사 그때 수탄 투적 훈련을 받는데
Then we were having grenade throwing training. We had to pull out the security pin of the grenade. We count 1, 2, 3, and we throw it. And we have to get down.
수탄 손잡이가 있는데
We have the handle. If you just let it go, it wouldn't explode. If you pull out the security pin, and if you throw it, it's gonna hit the gunpowder, and it'll light it, and it'll take about 3 seconds before it explode. And if it explode, all those metal will be torn into pieces, and it'll explode. It'll go in a very fast way, and people around there will die. So when we are going through that training, when they're in so much haste, when they will just throw it away. They will just throw it without pulling out the security pin. So the enemies will take it and they will throw it back to you. So that happens sometimes.
10분간 휴식을 하는데
So after the training, we had a 10-minute break. One of my comrades approached me and said, "Oh, you, Pastor Roxy Park," because it was our first time seeing one another. We just knew our name by the name tag. Don't you have gloves? I have gloves. I don't have gloves. What about your gloves? Where did you steal it? I have 2 pair of gloves. I didn't steal it. So how come you have 2 pair of gloves then? That's how they talk in the military. And the comrade told me, my older brother is captain of platoon. I had frostbite a little while ago, so my older brother gave me another 1 extra pair for me. What is the this is what comrade is good for, right? You can just take this pair. You can take it.
군대 안에서
So even in the army, even in the military, I could see God working.
그 장갑 한 컬이가 아니에요.
So it was not just pair of glove,
군대 안에 그렇게
but in my military life, that gave me so much strength.
내가 만약에 장갑 훔쳤으면
If I get caught when I steal,
나 이런
the people will be like, "Oh, Oksu Park is such a fake one." I'll be so ashamed that I won't be able to preach the gospel.
군에 가기 전에
But during 3 years of my military life,
훨씬 많이 구원을 받았어요.
many people received salvation.
하나님이 하나하나 어려움을 닥쳤을 때
So when I went through difficulties, each time I went through difficulties,
하나님은 믿어 부딪히는 거.
things that I face, relying on God,
그래서 어려울 때마다 한 번씩 믿어.
and time when I go through difficulties,
그때마다 하나님이 도.
each time I saw God helping me, and it was so amazing to see Him helping me.
선지자 생도의 아내는
And the wife of the sons of the prophet, because she had no faith in God,
자체가 자기 너무 부담스러워.
to her, living by faith was so much pain for her.
이제 이 하나님은 이 선지자 생도의 아내가
So to this wife of the sons of the prophets,
믿음으로 이끌게 하기 위해서
in order to let them live by faith,
떠나야 했고,
God had to take her husband first,
사업을 다 망해야 했고,
and in order to let her learn faith, God had to let her 2 sons to be in a situation where they could be sold as bondmen. And when she looked around, there was nowhere where could she get some help or hand from. So that's why she went to ask for help to Prophet Elisha. So that's the training course of God.
하나님은 제가 인생을 살면서
As we live our lives,
방법이나 노력이나 실력으로 사는 것 말고
not living with the
내가 부족하고 못나서 하나님을 의지할 수밖에 없도록 해서 하나님을 의지했을 때마다
each time I relied on God,
하나님이 돕는 그걸 보면 볼수록
the more as I see how God helps me, I was so thankful to God.
오늘 아침에
This morning,
아들이 있었던 거야.
this morning my son preached for the morning devotion,
지난 크리스마스 칸타타 한 이야기.
and he talked about how they did Christmas cantata.
아시아사 크리스마스 칸타타를 녹화를 해놨는데
Gracias Choir had recorded Christmas cantata,
이건 미국에 700개가 되는 방송국에서
but 700 broadcasting stations. I don't remember the exact number. Many broadcasting stations,
크리스마스 칸타타를 무료로 다
they televised in those broadcasting stations. They televised the Christmas cantata for free.
그러니까 이 크리스마스 합창 크리스마스 독창은 많은데 합창이 없는데
So
미국에서
they have in the United States they have a lot of
그러니까 많은
solo music, but they don't have choir music in the United States. And
나라들은 음악의 지식
actually, in the beginning, they took it as a very they very simple music or not of music of good quality. But in Gracias Choir, the
음악을 보던 발성 발성법을 다 때리
the chief of the choir would invent a new way of singing, and she has invented a new way of singing again. And it's really hard for the choir to learn because they sing well now, but she say that but the chief of the orchestra was saying that this is better method, so she invented a new method. Not last time, the prophet. Last time we had an interview on Zoom with the members of the choir, Sister Suyeon Lee,
한달 전에 크리스마스 한달 전에
and about a month before the Christmas cantata, they recorded it,
훨씬 더 좋다.
and their skill is a lot better now.
나는 지금까지 어렵게 발성법을 배워왔는데 막
The choir learned
법 쓰고 싶어하고
the
너무
she had
힘드니까
the way that they used to use. They're used to it now already. So learning a new method is so difficult.
배워가지고 하면
But after learning the new method,
뭐 달라.
the way they sing was so different.
웬만한 방송국에서 웬만한 방송
In the broadcasting stations,
우리 합창단에까 시더라 생각 들어보고 막
they were taking lightly of them.
생전 들어보지 못한
But as they heard the music from them, they could hear this music which was so different. There are many solo music, but there is not a lot of choir music.
저 CTN 방송을 하면서 그 방송
As we did CTN, because of broadcasting, they requested interviews, so we had an interview with CTN TV stations, and we were so thankful, and I told them we can't give you anything else, but we can let you use we're gonna sing Christmas carols. Our choir will sing Christmas carols for you. So CTN TV stations, I think maybe it was broadcasted by most of the broadcasting stations in the United States. So I could see how God was opening the path for us.
저들 진짜 아무것도 아닌
We are nothing.
1962년
1962, when I received salvation.
대한민국에 그때 제가 19살 된 사람은
Even if you line up all the people who were 19 back then, maybe I'll be the one. I'll be on the last line. That's how I was.
신앙을 알고 성경을 읽고 믿음을 배우면서
But as I learned spiritual life,
예수님의 인도를 따라 한 발자국
receiving the guidance of God, as I took step forward, one by one,
하나님이 너무너무 놀랍게 일하는
God was working so amazingly.
많은 청소년들이 그 젊은 시절에
So many young people in their young age, they may be tempted by sin, and that happens to them many times.
미국의 앤디라는 그 형제 변화되는 걸 보고 용기를 얻어서
And as we saw how Andy changed, we started IYF by faith,
여기
and this mind education was so good.
전 세계 정부에서
The governments of many governments around the world, they want to do this, and the whole world wants to now adapt our education program in their countries.
신청하는 나라가 많고 대통령
There are many countries that are
콜롬비아
trying to adapt the system into their program. So a little while ago, the president of Colombia made a request that we should.
케냐 대통령이 저하고 영상 통화를 하려고 하다가
So president of Kenya, he wanted to have an interview with us, but he couldn't because he had got some urgent affairs later. So we had interview with we talked with the ministers of Kenya, and a little while ago, the governor of Abidjan Abidjan of Cote d'Ivoire came to Korea, and now he wants to build a center for us.
카메룬의 그 청소
And a little while ago, the minister of youth of Cameroon,
카메룬에 와서 IYF 전부에 교육을 시켜달라고 부탁을
he's asking us to come to Cameroon and do the education program for them. And he told them about the center. Then he said, "Oh no, we have a lot of centers in every region. We have our center. We can use it as much as you want."
잠비아 이제 센터 거의 다 지어가고
In Zambia, our center is almost built,
기초공사 하고 있고
and in Eswatini, we're constructing our center. We are constructing
돈들도 많고 하지만
although it costs a lot of money,
끌어가는
but I can see how God is helping us.
여자가 선자생도의 아내가
The wife of the sons of the prophets,
남편 보고 여보
she said to her husband, "Oh, honey,
왜 나한테 이 두 아들 낳고 나를 고생시키고
why did you die before me like this? Why did you let me suffer so much like this? We murmur when we have time. But when you are so busy, when it's so difficult, you can't even murmur against anyone. What should I do? My sons will be born. My sons will be sold as slaves. How could you die like this, leaving me behind? So even if she murmurs like this, what does that help? It doesn't help anyway. She had no other way.
별별 방법 다 찾고 방법이 없습니다.
No matter how much she tried, she couldn't find any method. But the faith that her husband had, she wanted to learn. She wanted to learn it.
다른 방법이 있었으면 안 돼.
If there is no other way, he would have not tried.
안 죽어도 되는데.
Actually, her husband didn't have to die. They didn't have to fail in their business. But if things work out well, she wouldn't learn faith all her life.
지금도 그래요.
That's how it is even now.
살만하면 웬만하면 그냥
If it's possible, people they try to live without faith, and they wouldn't want to try things having faith in God and take a step forward.
믿음 살면 역사는 그래.
But if we leave having faith in God, that's so good. But people they wouldn't learn faith. That's why God will stop the path for them.
길이 없는 거예요.
That's why there is no other way.
그러니까 믿음 없는 여자가 하나님 없인 길이 없어.
That is why the woman, although she has no faith, and she eventually went to see the prophet Elisha. And she said, "Oh, your servant, my husband is already dead, but you know that he feared God.
이제 체주가 일어나
Now the creditor wants to take my two sons as bondmans.
두 아들 데리고 살다 두 아들 뺏기고 어떻게 살아?
So how can I live with my children being taken away?" Then the man of God Elisha said,
내가 널 위해 어떻게 할까?
What shall I do for you?
내집 무엇이 있는지
What do you have in your house? Tell me. Then the woman said, we have nothing in our house. Okay, I understand. We have no money either. So what do you have there then?
지난번에 기름 한 병 사놓은 거 있는데
Last time we bought a bottle of oil. That's the only thing left in our house. Elisha then said, "Now you go and borrow vessels from your neighbors, but do not borrow few, but borrow many, and keep your eyes closed, and you start to pour oil into the bottles." It is the same thing.
또 아닌
It sounds like nonsense. It's a bottle of oil. Why do we need all these big bottles? Why do we need all these pots to pour one bottle of oil? That's the thought of ordinary people, right?
옛날 같은 여자
If it were before, she wouldn't have acted that way.
이 외에 다른 길이 있었더라면
If she had no other way, if she had any other way,
많은 방법이
if she had
있었다면
any possible way, she would have tried it.
자기의 길이
But now, because she had no other way,
며칠 후에는
and a couple of days later,
울면서 몸부림치는 두 아이를
her two sons were to be taken away,
혼자 아들 그리워하고 남편
and she had to just miss her two children
울다 병들어
and murmur
자기니까
against her husband.
하나님이 아직 그 방법에 다른 방법이 없으니까
So there was no other way but God. He couldn't go out. He couldn't help but to go out before God.
선생님 알겠습니다. 나왔어.
Oh, I understand. And the son was outside. Did the prophet Elisha give you money, Mom? No. What did he give you then? He didn't give me any money, but he just told me certain thing. Okay, let's go.
그걸 빌려고 하는데
Prophet Elisha wants us to just go and borrow some empty vessels. Now let's go and borrow empty vessels.
죄송합니다.
I'm sorry, but do you have empty vessels in your house? Why? You need anything to put there? No, we just need it. Okay, we have an empty pot here. You can just take it and use. No, don't be careful. Be careful. Be careful not to break it. Okay. And she kept this pot. She brought Pat into the room, and she kept the door closed. And she began to pour oil into those vessels. It's just a bottle of oil. If I just pour it, it will just fill just a little bit in the bottom, and then she wouldn't have started in the first place. But nothing worked out until now, and because she had no other method. The only method that she had left was God. Even if you want to rely God, if you're gonna die, why do you rely God? That's why they don't learn faith. In our lives, we went through many situations where we had no other method but God. But when I learned faith, I could see God working alive in my life. There was no other way but God. So he began to pour oil. The bottle of oil was small, but the pot was big. But the son was very surprised. Mom, look, the bottle is small, but the oil keeps coming out. Yes. This is my bad. Your father knew this, that's why your father believed in God. But because I was so arrogant, I didn't believe in God. That's why you suffered. You should have just believed in God like this. God hears our prayer. He works for us. She began to shed tears. Oh God, such a fleshy person like me. I thought all my life I was not going to learn faith. I thought it was so hard to learn faith. So I didn't even start because I thought it was going to be hard. But God, you are letting me go through this faith now. Honey, can you hear me there? Now I got faith in me. You suffered a lot because of me, right? Because I had no faith. Honey, now I'm pouring this oil. This oil keeps coming out, honey. Why didn't I follow this faith from the very beginning? Why hadn't I lived by this faith? Honey, you must have been disappointed because of me, right? You must have worried about me so much, right? That maybe this is why God took you before me. Now I don't murmur against God anymore. Now I learned this faith, honey. So for long, she regretted for having lived without faith. Why wasn't I able to put my heart together with my husband? Why didn't I believe in God? God who is alive like this. God is the only one there for me. And all day long she poured oil into all vessels. Bring me another pot. Oh, we only have 5 vessels left, Mom. It's all filled up with oil. The oil kept coming out. In the heart of the woman, she had this unspeakable thankfulness toward God. I rejected God. I didn't believe in God. When I came to missionary school, I hated my husband. I just wanted to leave with my husband. But why did he come to missionary school? And he died. But this is the faith that he wanted to teach me here. Oh, this is why God let me go through all those difficulties. Oh God, I was so ignorant. I didn't know this. Now I only believe in you, Lord. Myself and my husband, my wife, we didn't have faith. We had no other way. Because we had to preach the gospel. We couldn't help but to learn faith because we had no other way. in 1989. Then our church around, there were only about 30 people. There were about 30 churches in Korea.
좀 많이 모이는 게 한 50명.
There were about in big churches there were about 100 people gathering in the church. We wanted to do mission work.
당시 아무도
Back then,
여권을 만들
they did not issue passport for anyone.
1988년
In after we had Olympic Games in 1988.
그때 제 아들 초등학교
Then my son
3학년인가
was in maybe his third grade. I remember, third or fourth grade.
아들 데리고 올림픽
So with my son, I went to Olympic gymnasium for Olympic Games. I think it was that very year. God did a lot of things in our lives.
올림픽을 마치고 난 뒤에
When the Olympic game was over, the slogan of Olympic was the world to soul and the soul to the world.
전 세계 사람들이
The people of the world, they came to Seoul. So the slogan was half fulfilled because the people of the world came to Seoul, but it was 1988. But because back then Korea was so poor, so people in Korea they could not travel abroad.
사람들도 여권을 내주지 않아요.
So the government would not issue passport for any of their citizens
외화 낭비한다.
because they said that if you go abroad you would spend dollars.
외교관들에게나
So they would only issue passport for diplomats or big chairman of big business. So just having passport back then meant that you had a very good high position in the society. But in 1989, President No Tae-woo gave his statement, and in his statement he said people who are above 45 years old they can issue passport from then on.
그때 제가
Back then,
45세
I was barely 45 years old. So myself and my wife, we got our passports, went to American embassy, and we got our visa. So March 1989, we went to LA to organize Bible seminar, and that very year we went to Berlin, Germany, and we held our conference there.
90년부터
And from 1989, we began to send our missionaries abroad.
우리나라 GNP 그 그래프를 보면 재밌는 게
You know, when you look at our GMP graph,
다가 1989
we were very poor, but from the year when we started to send missionaries abroad, then the economy of Korea began to boost up.
한국 사람 지금 세계에서 수입이 제일 많진 않은데
Although in Koreans, they don't have the biggest profit, but Korean people, they live well. You know, eating, wearing, dressing, you know, their apartment, shelter. You know, there are many people abroad who want to come to Korea. You know, in America, people
철학하게 사는 게 보이고
people in America, they
시원하게 보이고 그럴 때가 많아.
they may make more money than Koreans, but their life level,
해외 선교 참
I think Korea is also good.
1993년도에
In 1993, we had Expo.
케냐 사람들이 와가지고
So people from Kenya, they came. We met them, and they were connected to our church. So in 1993, I met the Minister of Commerce and Industry in Korea,
장관이 저를 초대해
and invited me then. So I went to Kenya for the first time in 1994.
그해
The same year,
제가 다녀와서
when I came back,
윤종수 김
missionary Yun Jong-soo, missionary Kim Jong-duk, we sent them to Kenya as missionaries. So we have our missionaries now all around the world, and our mission became one of the biggest missions in the world.
거의 전 세계 다 선교사.
So we have sent our missionaries in almost all countries around the world. So it is so clear to see God working in our lives. Last year, God worked through us,
오래 전부터 온라인으로 설교.
and from long ago, we broadcasted our sermons online.
저 뭐야 코로나 때문에 막
And last year, because of COVID-19,
예배를 드려야 하는데
we had to have offline worship.
올해
untact worship, but because we started from long ago,
말씀으로 온라인으로
we preach the word online because we've been doing it for a long time. Many broadcasting stations around the world. Last year, it was 655 broadcasting stations which televised our events,
그런 우리가
and about 2 billion people they heard our sermons.
수많은 구원을 우리 앞에
So many people they received forgiveness of sin, and God was opening the gate for us.
예배당에 5명 앉혀놓고
So because of COVID, we could only have about 20 people in the chapel,
몇번 예배당에
and in this big chapel, only people who are organizing the worship can participate. So I think it's more people can come in. But anyway,
정부에서
the government,
예배를 허락해요.
because the government did not allow us to have offline worship, so we are praying to God so that He would eliminate Corona as soon as possible.
하나님께서 이번 크리스마스 때 그라시아 합창단이 나가면
During Christmas, God led the music of Gracia's choir to be broadcasted around the world, around the world, and my message were broadcasted along with the music, and it was really Gracia's choir kind of swept all the countries around the world. God, we are pathetic and useless people, but it's so amazing to see God working in our lives. Loving brothers and sisters, please listen to me.
선지자 생도의 아내
The wife of the sons of the prophet, just as God made her into a man of faith, just like Elisha becoming man of faith,
왕의 장관은
the lord of the king, he had no faith
절망과 절망
and put despair and frustration in people's hearts.
한 사람 믿음을 일으키시기를
And God wants to establish faith in the heart of each and every one of us. Don't be burdensome. Don't feel burdensome because God wants to work through us.
하다가 보면
If you hesitate,
금방 한편을
your life would go so fast.
했는지 모르는
You know, myself too, sometimes I think, what did I do? But I got this old.
이렇게까지 살지도 몰랐어.
I didn't even imagine that I was going to live this old. Everyone, please take a step forward, having faith in God,
역사하실 때
and God will work through you.
하나님이 선지자 생도의 아내를 믿음 이끌려고 많은 일을 해서
God did a lot of things to lead the wife of the sons of the prophet through faith. So when we take a step forward, having faith in God, then God will be glorified through us. And in everything that we do, He will bestow His grace and mercy upon us.
감사합니다.
Thank you very much, everyone. We'll pray.